Hey everyone, it's LC here. Tonight we're going to go over our camping gear for this season. And we're going to change it up a little bit from the base camp kind of camping that we've been doing in the past here, last few years. And we're going to get back into doing some of the off the pack kind of camping. So really excited to kind of show you what I'm going to be running this year, and hopefully I can help somebody out there that might have some questions on where to start and what might be other options out there for you. Setup that I'm talking about here is what they refer to as a hot tent. Basically, it's a TP frame that you can run a stove. Depending on whether you're going to be backpacking in with your camp on your back, or you're just going to pull up and camp wherever you can. There's a few different ways that you could go about doing this hot tent setup. The one that I decided to go with was going to be a backpacking primarily. I did order 2 different tents from this company that I'm going to be telling you about here in a second, but I ordered 2 different size tents. I've got the smaller run and gun style tent, and then I also have a little bit larger tent for longer stays. The company that I decided to go with was Luxe hiking gear. It's a very small company, and so if you're wanting to look into their products and order something, you want to probably get that in as soon as possible. Don't wait till the last minute to order your stuff, because they basically do first come first served basis on their orders. So if you wait until you're almost up to that hunting time, they may be a month or better out on getting your stuff made and sent to you. So that was kind of what I found out here. I even pre-ordered my other tent, and I still am waiting on that, but I'm not really in a rush for it right now. So I did receive my smaller 2-man. They call this a 2-man tent. Really, in my opinion, it's more closer to a 1-man with a stove, if you're going to run the stove in it. If you're not running the stove, yeah, you could definitely get 2 guys in there. Anyway, so the company is called Luxe, and there are a lot of companies out there that have a strong foothold in this market. However, you're going to pay quite a bit more money for those higher end, more quality lineups. A couple that come to mind is going to be like Kafaru and Seek Outside. Those are 2 of the staples when it comes to hot tent hunting, backpacking, and living off your backs. If it's something that you are not afraid to spend quite a bit of money on and for the little bit higher quality stuff, then by all means, you might want to look into those companies. The thing that I loved about the Luxe line is the money that you spend, you pretty much get about the same thing. From what I've done research-wise, I think that their material is more than suitable for getting you out there and getting you started in that backcountry. So if you're just starting out like I am and wanting to just test the waters with your hot tent setup, the price point on this you can't beat. I think altogether with what I've got here is around $400. That won't even get you into a stove with some of these other companies. A lot of those other tents and things, you're going to be looking at that if you want a good sized tent, or even a medium sized tent, you're going to be looking at that $6,000 to $7,000 range. This particular tent, this is the Hex Mini 2-man tent with a stove jack. This one cost me $190. The titanium stove is a medium-sized stove. This is the only one that Luxe carries right now at this point for titanium. It's a medium-sized stove, but this was only what was this, $198, and that was for the box. And then if you add the stove jack, I believe that puts you around that $250. So there again, you're quite a bit less for this stove than you would be with those higher end name brands. Really anxious to get this out and put it to its paces. I have had this tent out already and kind of set it up the other day, and it's basically a 1-man, comfortably a 1-man tent, especially with a stove. So, but the nice thing about this tent is this is a hexagon-shaped layout, and so it's going to be a lot better for shedding weight and water and wind than just your pyramid style, which I do have one of those coming in a larger size. So but this hexagon mini is the first one that I ordered from them, and basically this is it in a nutshell. And this is less than a pound. Oh well, it's right around a pound and a half. A pound and a half right here. Boom, ready to rock. It's all I need in my pack. With the stoves, this is a titanium stove, so obviously your price is going to be a little bit higher than, say, a stainless steel because of the weight factor. Titanium is just better. It's going to wear better and all that good stuff. So with this stove, you're going to get a nice canvas carrying case. It's got some moly materials here on the sides, and then you can also like Velcro some other stuff on here if you need to. Inside here, you're going to find your spark arrestor kit. This is basically the main frame of that. And then in here in this little envelope, you'll have your rings for your pipe. And then you'll have your spark arrestor. Basically, this is just a screen that's going to stop sparks and big pieces going up your chimney and starting a fire. So you'll have that, and you'll have your draft piece here for your draw. So that'll come with it. It's got a nice carrying pouch here on the front. Then here on the main compartment, you'll have your main stove pieces. Now this is rolled up the short way, as you can see here. So when with these titanium stoves and all these stoves, basically you have to burn them in, and they basically form from there on out. So what we have to do is roll this thing out the long way and roll it by hand, and then put these rings on there. Once we put it on the stove and light the stove, it'll burn this, and it will keep its memory of that long pipe. So once we're done burning it in, then we will roll it back out and roll it up into this shape, and then when we lay it out again the next time, it'll just snap into that. If we've done everything right, it should snap right into that elongated circumference and be ready to rock right off the bat. So that's your stovepipe. That's a 7-foot, I believe, stovepipe that I ordered. I'll show you. We're just going to set this up real quick, and I just want to show you how easy this is. Probably won't put the legs on it because that's kind of self-explanatory, but you have your bottom, and you've got, the nice thing about this stove, this is the 3W. This is the only titanium stove that Luxe makes right at this point, but it has, what I really liked about this stove was it has a window in the front. Now that window is going to add a little bit of weight, obviously, but I think it's going to be a small price to pay for comfort of being able to watch that fire at night. Just something about being able to see that glow of that fire when it comes to those long cold nights out there in the woods. So anyway, you've got your bottom, and you've got your sides and your top here and your back. And basically all this is going to do is just slide together. So anyway, you'll slide your sides in there, and you'll have your front. Make sure that your vent, it's got a nice little vent door here at the bottom. Put that down. And that will just slide right in there. Everything's down and secured. And you'll put your top on. Your top obviously will have the hole on the top there for your pipe. And then once you have that settled in, then you would run your legs and set those up. I'm not going to do that. That's kind of self-explanatory. There's just 4 holes here on the top and here on the bottom. You run them through, tighten them up with the wing nuts, and you got your legs. Your spark arrestor kit here will be just basically this thin piece of titanium flat stock that has some slots cut in it and some pins sticking out of it, and that's going to be the area that you will sit your pipe sliding down over the top of it. Allen screw here, and you'll basically turn this into itself. It's slotted, so at first you're going to want to keep that pretty small. Just put that wing nut on there, and then you can size that up, and once you get it kind of evened out, then you can tighten that wing nut down. Now you want to be sure to wear gloves here, but I work with steel every day at work, so I'm used to handling sharp metal, but I don't advise other people doing that. I've been doing that for 15 years, 14 years, so I'm used to working with my hands around sharp metal. Here again, you have your pipe that will go the elongated way, and that is basically your stove. This whole setup right here weighs about 2 pounds. So I think we're a little above 2 pounds with the carrying case and the pipe. You're right around 2.5, 3 pounds with everything. So with the tent, stove, everything, I'm looking at about 4.5, 5 pounds at the most. So really a light camping setup for the comforts that this little stove will bring you at night in colder weather. We're going to go out and set this thing up and let you see the process of burning this stove in and setting this tent up, and then more than likely we will probably be just hanging out and camping in this for one day or one night this weekend, and just see how everything works out. So stick around, we'll get that video started here for you in just a second. Well, it's the next day. We're out here in the backyard. Excited to go ahead and set this stuff up and try to get this stove burnt in before tonight. We may have to leave it set up and burn it in tonight when we get home too, but shouldn't be a problem. So one of the things that we're going to have to do, cut the hole in the stove jack for our pipe to go through. We need to get this kind of set out, spread out here. And we got a little bit of a breeze today, so we're going to be fighting the wind a little bit. But you just want to find your 4 corners, and we'll get this set up over here away, 4 sides here. So the 2 there, 2 here, and then the 2 on the outside. Leave your door zipped up. And you want to stake these in kind of loose at first. Oh, here comes the wind. And these have a nice draw system on the string here. So basically all I'm doing is setting this string to whatever length I think I'm going to want it at. You can measure that out. The closer to the ground you want this, the less string you want out. So keep that in mind when you're setting it up. You just take your trekking pole basically and just set it down up in the center. Find your center here, and if your trekking poles are not tall enough, you can put like a log or something under it to hold it up, to prop it up a little bit taller for you. A little bit of tension on this. I don't want to pull a ton right now because the door is open. It was pretty tight to begin with, so that's pretty good right there, I think. You just want to make sure that everything's even. You got good tension on it. You're obviously not going to have as much tension on the front because your door is open, but that's pretty good right there. So you can see around here. That's the hexagon. That's what I mean by the hexagon. It's got the 6 sides. You'll see the tent pole. And like I said, there's not a ton of room in here, but there's enough for one guy laying this way here, and the stove right here. Okay, so our next task here, we've got the stove basically put together from last night. So they make a platform for the bottom of this stove to keep it from sinking into the ground, the dirt, the mud, the snow, whatever. Because once this heats up the ground, your stove might have a tendency to sink, especially like if it's snowy out. There's the stove. We'll set that aside here. Now we'll need our rings for our pipe. Now this is going to be the tricky part, especially by myself. So we'll have the rings sitting right here beside me. And I hope this works. I've got a piece of PVC here about 5 foot long. And this is going to want to unravel real quick. There, that's not too bad. I think that's going to work. So we'll start at one end here. And we've got to bend this. And just be careful not to kink it. Like I'm doing there. So let me see if I can just finesse this over. Definitely a 2-man job. hold down my other side. Once I get this center close, I should be able to tuck that side and then tuck this side. And then this is kind of the tricky part. It's going to be getting these rings on here without losing it. Every time I lift that, it wants to unravel. So we'll run that down. And I'm going to go down here and run one down here so you can kind of see the dangers of not wearing gloves with this. I'll get all my rings on here. But once we burn this in, like I said, it's going to remember that shape. So now we'll get rid of that PVC pipe. We'll run this first one down to the end here. Actually, I need to get these down towards the center and just spread them out over the whole stove. They give you quite a few of them, so, and you gotta just take your time with it. There's no reason to hurry. All right, so this will come with an outside cover, your stove jack cover, and then if you peel this off, you just have basically a hole right here. Your stove jack cover will have a flap, so your hole will go right here, and this will come up on top of the pipe. That will allow water to drain off the side and not go in the hole. Now some people might want to cut the whole hole out. I'm not going to do that. I'll show you what I'm going to do here. You can do this on the tent. You can do it the way I'm going to do it here. But basically all I'm going to do is kind of make a close pattern here. Get it centered as well as I can. Then I'm just going to poke a small hole in there so I have, and then I'm going to poke holes on each side like a cross where I want that to stop. So there I basically have a pattern, and then I'll just take, and from that hole on the outside I'll come into the hole on the inside. That way I'm not tearing clear across, cut into the center. That way if you slip, you're not coming all the way across into your rest of your material and screwing it up. And like I said, there's several ways of doing this, but this is how I decided to do mine. Now if this, if this is not enough, then we can obviously cut this a little bit more, but you want to try to keep it as close to size as you can. Probably your top will have to be a little bit longer of a cut, just for the fact that that is going to be at an angle. So this is going to want to catch more on the top than the bottom, but right there should be. Okay, we might have to cut that a little bit bigger. Just take your time. Don't cut like a madman. This material is pretty easy to cut, so just use caution. Leave those flaps intact because that's going to help deter the rain and stuff away. You can cut those off if you want, but I'm just going to leave them on. And then, like I said, your pipe will go right up through there, like that. And the reason they don't cut that hole for you is because you may not want to use their stove, and that will allow you to use other stoves besides theirs. So pretty much all the manufacturers are going to be the same way. They're not going to cut that for you. Okay. We'll be good there. Should be good there. Okay, so there's what I was talking about, having that flap over the top of that pipe. Keep water from running down in there. If you run your pipe down, it's going to make that seal pretty tight around that pipe. It's not going to be 100%, but if you go up through the top, it might be a little better too, because it's going to push everything up and keep water that way out. So let's go ahead and get this fire started here. Lucky for me, I've got a ton of sticks and twigs and everything around here from my tree. You see the smoke coming out of the top there. I think that's going to go for us. You'll hear it kind of popping and stuff. That's the metal kind of expanding and getting settled in. So one thing I learned that's very important about these stoves is you got to make sure that everything is together right the first time, or you're going to have problems like I did. I didn't have one of the sides in all the way, in the groove, and it was starting to bow out and flames coming out the side. So now it's wanting to stay to that shape, and I'm gonna have to try and get this back together and burn it. Do I got it there? Maybe I got it. I think I got it. Yeah, so don't rush this part, guys. You want to make sure that all that is set right. It's really tough to get that to fit back right after it's been heated up, to try to get that to bow and bend back in there like it's supposed to. Learn from my mistake. Make darn sure you have all your sides in before you burn this thing in, or you're gonna have a lot of problems. But we got it together again. Good thing is we got most of the pipe burnt in. I don't know, maybe I had that all in the first time, but I just didn't have it tightened down and it popped out. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this down pretty good, and that should not come apart. So there you have it. We got this thing burning good. It's putting out a ton of heat. Everything went well except for the initial setup. We kind of had it not put together right. So there again, I can't stress enough, make sure that all your parts are in there solid, and tighten that thing down pretty good so it doesn't pop those sides out on you. But once you've got this burned in and it's solid, it should be really easy to get those sides and everything to line back up the way it's supposed to be. The other thing I would recommend is getting the bottom for them. It's definitely going to be beneficial to have the base, or make a base, set of rock under it. That would be another way to go if you're in an area that has nice flat rocks and stuff like that. But pretty happy with the majority of how it went together. The wind doesn't seem to be bothering it today. It's not real windy, but this tent also has some other tie downs, even sturdier with more tie downs on the sides here. Kit Kat, are you enjoying that in there? It's warm, isn't it? Too warm, isn't it? You can turn the vent down on this so it doesn't burn quite as fast, or put in your flue there so you're not burning quite as fast. You're definitely gonna have to try to keep up with this at night. Hopefully get this thing out tomorrow and set it up, and then maybe stay in it that night and then pack things up in the morning. And we also got a good idea of what not to do with this stove as far as putting it together. You want to make sure that everything's together perfect the first time, and then burn it in, or you're really going to have issues down the road. So can't stress that enough. Get it. Beautiful view of the lake here. The town back there in the background. Well, hopefully this video was helpful in trying to make your decision on what hot tent to use. And it doesn't matter which brand you go with, just get out there and do it. It's really nice and comforting to know that you have a heat source available when it's nice and chilly out. Keep you nice and warm on those cold evenings. So weather permitting, we should be able to get out right away and do some good turkey hunting. But we actually heard some, I don't know if it was somebody practicing, but I thought I heard some gobbles off in the distance there. So we might have a long season this year if the weather holds out. So those turkeys might kick in pretty quick. Perfect evening for camping. So anyway, I'm gonna probably hit the rack here and get a good night's sleep. Get the rest of the stove burnt in, and it sounds like it's crackling and popping pretty good. So looks like it's browning up on the bottom here. So we should have a pretty good burn in on both sides here. So happy to see that. I'm not seeing any sparks. We got a nice draw coming out of it. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching Public's Eye Outdoors. Stay safe out there in your hunts, everybody, and we'll see you on the next video.